All right, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of James Bond Bitcoin Live, episode 0027. Today we have a special guest, as always, every episode. Kyle, please introduce yourself and tell us what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first, thanks, James, for having me on the show. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Kyle Honeycutt, and I do a YouTube channel, and I'm the author of Building Bitcoin Websites. It's the only book on Bitcoin web development. And then recently I launched Tangerine Power Incorporated back in April, which is going to be, or it's an API service. Our beta launched last month. So.
Excellent. And could you tell us more about the book? I know you have the book with you. Could you just show it to us so everyone can buy it? Go to the store and buy it right now.
Yeah. Go ahead, buy it, or don't buy it. But it is really the only resource on this. It's on Amazon. You can just Google "building Bitcoin websites," and basically, it's 180 pages, and it's a bunch. It teaches people how to incorporate Bitcoin on their website, and it goes from using third-party APIs, which is kind of like the easier lower level, even all the way up to using the Bitcoin JSON RPC, so running a node or something like on a VPS virtual server and then interacting. So that's basically what this book aims to do. I wrote it because I couldn't find much information in one place. I had to do a bunch of scavenger hunts, and then I started making tutorials, including written ones. And then basically, I decided I basically have a book. So then I decided to write the book. And then, so this has been out for about a year. Check it out if you can. If not, no biggie. But if you do, make sure you leave a review on Amazon, because that's like the like button on YouTube. The more reviews, the better.
Okay, and how much is the book, out of curiosity?
It's $16, so cheaper than Andreas's Mastering Bitcoin, but obviously not nearly as much information. But yeah, so moderate price, $16. You can get it actually for $7 if you go to my website and pay in Bitcoin, because the Bitcoin will be worth more later.
Well, I would give you the $16 over the Bitcoin.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
But it's smart. But that's a good try, Kyle. I like that. You tried. You tried to take my Bitcoin. All right.
Yeah. That's what you got to do. Got to hodl.
So if I buy one, would you sign it for me?
Well, it's through Amazon, so I wouldn't if I wanted to. It's
No. If I buy a book and I met you in real life, would you sign the book for me?
Oh yeah, absolutely. The UK CoinFest this year, they raffled off one of my signed books. So yeah.
Okay, excellent. So the reason why I wanted you on the show is because you've done some development with Bitcoin, open source software. Could you tell us about that, and what does it really take to get things into Bitcoin? Like, people, I have no idea. Could you tell us like what the process is, and what's it like, so my audience and I also can be educated?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I actually have a YouTube tutorial on how to make commits to the Bitcoin Core project, because it is open source. So all you need to do is be able to make a pull request, and as long as you do it in the right procedure, it will be acknowledged by the community, and then it'll be peer reviewed. And the peer review is really intense, because I've only done one commit to Bitcoin Core, and it was just on the JSON RPC, to add the pruning in the Bitcoin config, and it was just in the documentation. So it was a really simple one. But yeah, when I submitted it, there was like 5 revisions, some from Peter Wola, some from Lan Vandermeer. But yeah, they tore it apart, and it was just a documentation update. So heavy peer review.
Now I don't know any of the core developers. Could you tell us like what you think of these people that are basically writing code, and like what are your feelings about them? Are they leading us in the right way? Are they doing the right thing for I guess the community as a whole, since this is an open source project?
Yeah, and sorry, I dropped my pen. Yeah, if it is, like you said, it's really community and it is very giving. So you've got some people in there that are just, they're into it for the software and the science. For example, Peter Wola, who's one of the lead developers in Bitcoin Core, he will actively contribute and help the alternate clients when they're stuck and they can't figure it out. Like Bitcoin ABC, for example, or Bitcoin Classic. And you'll see the same thing even from Jeff Garzik. He'll go back and forth and he'll put in his feedback, even though it might not be as welcome these days as it used to be. But he's leading up the 2x project, and you've got Jonas Chanelli, who's on Bitcoin Core, and he's all over the issues, because people can raise an issue, like if you find a bug. He's all over that, and just a big group of people that are interested in writing good software as opposed to trying to control something or trying to make money. That they're into it because they love the science.
I mean, do you honestly feel that way? They're really into the science. They're really into coding, and it's not about, well, it may be a little bit about the money. I mean, I hear some of the developers have Bitcoin, which I do too, but
Yeah.
but is it, like, I hear stories, and I'm not sure if they're true or they're not true. This is coming from your mouth, so it's kind of hearsay. But is that your honest feelings in regards to the development team?
For at least for Bitcoin Core, I have to say so. I was a big fan of Gavin and Andreessen before whatever happened to them happened to them. I don't want to get into conspiracy theories, but I don't know what happened there. But I forgot where I was going with it. But there was, a big, good pool of developers.
Okay, all right. Well, I was asking, like, if they were really doing it for the love of coding, and they enjoy what they're doing versus
Yeah,
being about the money, quote unquote. That's your genuine feeling.
yeah. I mean, everyone needs to get paid. I mean, everyone's time is valuable, or at least it should be valuable. So if there's money in there for it, and say, hey, I need you to focus on this project, and I'm going to pay you for it, then who's to blame them for getting paid? Everyone gets paid. If you don't, you're a bum and you can't do anything, including code. You can't write code unless I guess you got a solar powered laptop you got for free.
Nice, nice. Now, tell the audience about your background, so people have an idea of, like, where you come from, as far as your work, like your professional life.
Oh, okay. Um, so for my professional life, I work in finance, and I've worked in finance since 2005 and banking, retail banking, bankruptcy law, and now corporate asset finance. So I'm coming from the legacy side, and I discovered Bitcoin on Christmas Day in 2013. Because nothing is open on Christmas Day, and I was on my computer all day, and I was looking for something to invest in, and I saw this thing called Litecoin, and apparently you have to buy Bitcoin to get Litecoin, so that was my bridge in. And then once I actually discovered what it was, because I initially thought Bitcoin was almost like Warcraft Gold, just like an entry on a database, and then once I actually learned what it was, I dumped all my Litecoin and became a Bitcoin accumulator and hodler. Um, yeah, ever since.
Okay. Well, what do you think of? Um, that's interesting that you said you got in by Litecoin, and
Yeah,
then
because Bitcoin was like $1,000 then, and I was like, well, I missed the boat on Bitcoin. What's next? Oh, Litecoin. So let me get Litecoin. Yeah.
But now, if you had a choice now, I mean, let me ask you, as a computer person, Litecoin has SegWit now, and Bitcoin will get SegWit. What would you choose between the two? Would you still, like, choose Bitcoin over Litecoin?
Yeah. Because Bitcoin's got the network effect. How many Litecoin ATMs are there? None. I mean, and how many railways are there? Like when I do stuff with web development and Bitcoin, there's so many resources out there, like development-wise, like libraries and APIs. But for Litecoin, I mean, I guess there's Block.io. I know they do it, but other than that, it's really limited. So the infrastructure is Bitcoin. So that's where everyone goes, and it's and it's worth it because it has the best developers and it has the most time in business, so to speak. So yeah.
Okay. And what about, how are your feelings on these other altcoins that are in the space? Like, because I asked you about Litecoin, and Litecoin is probably the closest thing I think to Bitcoin. Maybe Ethereum, because it's got a lot of money behind it. But other than that, I mean, I don't see these other coins, and I'm not into computers at all. But this is just what I see with my eyes, because I trade peer to peer, person to
Okay.
person, and that's what I do in this space. That's how I try to contribute in some ways, trying to get more people involved, specifically Bitcoin, and kind of almost providing, I guess a service, the closest thing I can say, to people who need to use Bitcoin in some ways. They come to me, they say, hey, I know you have Bitcoin, I'd like to buy it. And I say, hey, well, I have X amount for trading. I'm not going to go into my personal stash, and that's what I do. So with that, like these other coins, like I see them move up in value on the exchanges. How real is that when you try to really use it in real life? Because I asked you about Litecoin, you said it's barely being used.
Hmm.
Now, if Litecoin's barely being used, does that mean all these other coins are like non-existent?
If you were to think about it in a way of like, I want to add a shopping cart to my website, and even if there isn't background support how you can build it yourself, the only way you'd be able to do that is by running like a node, so for that altcoin, in order to accept it. So like when you have places like Poloniex and exchanges, every time they want to accept a new coin, they got to load up a new node, and you hope it's not a virus.
Right. Okay. Interesting. Um, and another thing I would like to ask you is, how do you feel about the whole big block, small block supposed debate that happened? When I got involved, I really didn't know anything about it. I was just trading, and that's all I was doing. It never came up to my mind at all until recently, very close to, I would say, beginning of this year, where I became concerned because it seemed to be affecting fees, transaction times, and for me, that's kind of important because the fee's not too bad because the users, my buyers, and I pay for it, but it's worth it for me. But the transaction times were just getting ridiculous on some of these things. What were your feelings about that?
Well, for that particular time, yeah, it was terrible. I think, what was it, from May till July? I think it was almost like a 2-month period where you could barely squeeze a transaction in, and even if you put in a huge fee, it would take 2 days to clear. That was just a bad time, and that just showed what the 1 megabyte block does. Um, and it also shows how much demand and usage there is for Bitcoin, assuming it wasn't a spam attack. I think it was a spam attack. Not saying that there was a ton of demand, but it just, if you look at the statistics of just how it came in, and then all of a sudden it fell off. Um, yeah. So I'm a fan of the 1 megabyte block only because of when you run a node, it takes a long time to download and sync. And then it just limits the distribution. But other than that, I don't really see an issue with a 2 megabyte block, other than it has to be a hard fork. And then which client is that going to run on? Is that going to go over to some new client ran by a company, or is it going to stay as the open source Bitcoin Core code?
Okay. And what are your thoughts now? What are your thoughts on the Bitcoin Cash with the hard fork? Because this now that it's really happened, what is your analysis? Because everyone was afraid of Bitcoin hard forking. That was kind of like the struggle for the keep it the same block size, 1 megabyte or 2 megabyte. Now we got this hard fork that really did happen. What's your analysis?
Well, I would say this one is a mini test run for what's going to happen in November. But Bitcoin Cash ended up being considered, it's basically an altcoin that cloned the UTXO of Bitcoin based on a certain block height. But what's going to happen in November, and there's they're currently going back and forth, Core versus SegWit 2x. They're pulling out each other's was a signal code or signal byte in the first bytes. So what would happen is there could be a potential hard fork in November when these activate and once they go live. And then
Okay.
that's going to be the scary one, because there wouldn't be replay protection. You'd have transactions mirrored on both networks, and then it would be bad.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, I I've been kind of saying the same thing. I'm not even a computer person, but it did look like it was a test, literally for the real deal in November. And you feel that there might be a hard fork. What do you think it's going to do? I don't want to talk about price too much, but it is going to affect the price, because if you just look at what happened with Bitcoin Cash, do you think something similar was going to happen with SegWit 2x hard fork, where there's going to be before the actual hard fork that may happen or may not happen, people will panic, price will go down, they'll come back up, because then people will think, well, wait a minute, I'll get an extra Bitcoin, I'll get free money again, and then there'll be a surge in price, and then the split, and then there'll be like volatility after that between both blocks on different exchanges, and then Bitcoin Core will shoot up in value. Do you think that's kind of be the repeating pattern here?
Yeah. The short answer is yes. I think that's going to happen. People will panic just before they know the hard fork's going to happen. Hopefully they'll fix the problem, it'll recover, and then as will the price. But yeah.
And which chain, if it did hard fork, which chain do you think would prevail?
Well, there would be they would both be a mirror change, but with different version bytes. So any coin spent on Core could be replayed and spent on SegWit 2x. So exchanges would have to decide which one are they going to go for, and are they going to actually split it? Because it would be hard to track wallets if someone could just replay your transaction.
Is that the reason why this is even more scarier? This is like more serious?
Yeah, at least currently. I wouldn't be surprised if they come up with a replay protection before November, and then we would basically have two coins again. And then is it going to be like Bitcoin Cash, and we're just going to dump it? That was kind of nice, but I don't know if what's going to happen.
Well, I was hoping that because I have some Bitcoin holdings, and I was hoping maybe Bitcoin Cash would go up higher in value throughout Christmas and into the new year, so I can get some free gifts from the whales that pump it, and maybe a New Year's party.
Yeah, that's a good strategy. I held mine for a little while because initially it dumped to like a 0.05. I think it got really low, and then once it got back up to 0.1, then I got rid of mine, so I got 10%.
Now, let me ask you what you think about SegWit. What does that mean? Like, what does that open up for Bitcoin Core? Let's just say just Bitcoin Core with 1 megabyte. What does that mean? Like, does that do anything? Like, is the second layer, the Lightning, and all these drive chains and side chains? What's the big deal about this?
It's a big deal, but it's down the road. It's in the future, because the way SegWit's going to save space in the blockchain is from special SegWit addresses and special SegWit transactions. So if people continue to use old legacy addresses and legacy transactions, it's not going to do anything. You're going to still have that 1 megabyte cap. But the idea is that all the wallets start using SegWit addresses, SegWit transactions, and then eventually you can take out the signatures. It's the largest part in an input. So for every input, I think 180 bytes per input, and that's mostly because of the signature. So you're going to take that out, stick it in a different place so you don't have to do a hard fork, and then now you can soft fork with a larger block size. So it is a block size increase. It's just a clever way of doing it.
Okay.
And then
And
Lightning and that stuff, I'm really clueless about it. It's pretty advanced shit.
well, I'm a little excited about it because I hear a lot about it, and it sounds exciting. I wish, I guess, I wish that we could have done this 2 years ago, you know, and then we might have had a lot of stuff going on by now as far as merchant processing and peer-to-peer transactions where it could be just done so fast. Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, I know the obvious basis premise of it, of setting up payment channels, and so they're trusted, and then they just kind of settle the tab at the end. But the actual technicals behind it, that's the really tough part.
so
Kyle?
you're in the financial world, or Brian, do you have any?
Well, I'm wondering, Kyle, I know you have a limited SegWit knowledge, but the blockchain itself is not really hackable, right? So when people get hacked, it's because they have some sort of other layer that's connected to it that does some utility that can be changed. Is putting things on top of the Bitcoin network open up more points of vulnerability for us?
I think it would be foolishly optimistic to say no. So yeah.
All right. In your knowledge, do you feel like they are considerable enough to be discussed and maybe considered strongly, or is it very low?
So basically, you're asking whether there could be any vulnerabilities from adding the SegWit or their later layers.
Right, right.
I guess 0-day attacks, you don't know until it happens. But I would trust the developers with Core. They really know their shit, and they've been testing it for a year, and I think anything that would allow for an attack vector would have been found. But I mean, who knows when you have a centralized, not centralized, but just a limited number of developers that are testing it on testnet versus it open to the world.
Right. Is there an actual way to break Bitcoin?
So
All these forks and all these things happening, is there any way a ripple effect could do? I don't know how, but any way that the blockchain or the nodes that are all set up, could there be anything done that would destroy the network or make something happen to it somewhere?
If you know, or if someone does know, they're going to want to contact the top 4 banks in the world, because they're going to want to do that to Bitcoin to destroy it.
Right, right, right. Not
So
to mention some countries too.
yeah, so I'd say no, there isn't a way to do it, and if there was, it would have been done by now.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, I think, what are we up to? Is it 50 billion market cap? So that's the pot of gold at the end if you can break Bitcoin. I guess everyone would sell before you could sell, so you wouldn't get that full full 50 billion.
Right. I don't mean like gaining control of the network, but just messing it up where it doesn't work properly.
You could spam the network, clog up the 1 megabyte blocks, but that's going to cost you money.
Sure.
You can try the 50% attack, launching a ton of nodes and get hashing power, and then try to split the chain using different longest chains, and then they end up competing. But again, the amount of money that takes to do it, you end up making more money. You just end up burning money. You burn cash, and then you're going against a bunch of people that are playing for the rules, that are incentivized to do it, and then there's more people joining in all the time. So it would be a losing battle.
It sounds like you've given a good reason for certain folks to stop their battles against everything.
Yeah, why not? Or yeah.
Well, Kyle, let me ask you on something along the same lines. Um, how fragile or how strong is Bitcoin? Because we just hear people tell us that it's good, but I don't see the code. I don't really test anything. I just have a wallet and I push send, and it seems to go through every time. And so you know how real is is the risk
Of Bitcoin or the Bitcoin price?
of Bitcoin? Bitcoin itself, the software, the blockchain, the cryptography involved. How how fragile or how strong that is that real? Should I be concerned? Should regular people be concerned?
No, not over the cryptography or the security. It's probably some of the strongest there is in the world.
Okay,
But
so
Bitcoin price, I mean, who knows what could happen? There could be a giant anti-smear campaign worldwide by all governments, and who knows? And then it just smashes the price because nobody believes in it, or they've been brainwashed, and then you thought you had a couple $100 in your wallet that you just press send and it works, and now you press send and there's only a penny. I mean, Bitcoin still works, but the price is gone. So does it still work?
well, that would be a social, I guess, issue, not really a technological issue. As far as I know, if it was a penny, I would buy a lot.
Yeah, me too.
If it dropped to a penny, I would buy a lot. I'd be like, you fools,
I'll put a giant limit order at 2 pennies, so you can't get any.
Oh, damn. Now let me move on to some other coins. How long have you been involved with Bitcoin?
2013.
2013. Okay, that's
Christmas Day, 2013.
Okay, Christmas Day. I came just around November, so we're almost at the same time. So you've been around that long as I have. What are your thoughts on Ethereum? Because again, have more computer mind, I'm assuming.
Yeah, Ethereum's a really cool idea. It's you can host scripts decentralized, like out in the cloud, but it's not a cloud. It's the Ethereum chain. Everyone's hosting the client, which is why they're having such terrible scaling issues, because they've only been around 2 years and their blockchain's larger than Bitcoin's. And now they're going to have to shard the database, cut it up into different pieces, and have this person hold this part of the database, hold another person the other part of the database. And I don't know if that's going to work, but it's a really cool idea. And the Ethereum token, the more it's, I don't know, if it's worth too much money, then people aren't going to want to spend the Ethereum to launch their script that runs. So it's kind of a double-edged sword, which is why Vitalik himself said a high Ethereum price is not necessarily good.
And does that the thing I'm worried about the most is I don't understand the technology, but what concerns me is the ICOs happening on Ethereum, and they seem to be more of vaporware, and they're raising money on something that doesn't really exist. That might affect the price on Ethereum, but also affect the whole community as a whole when the house of cards crashes down. You're also into finance. What do you think about these ICOs?
Initially I ignored them. I thought, because back so you started around the same time as I did. So in 2014, 2013 was kind of the initial altcoin craze, and anytime a new altcoin got added to, I don't even think it was Polo. I think we were watching like BTCE, and then talking about Litecoin added to Gox, which never happened. But I just saw it as a new way to spin off altcoins. And ICO, that's cool, because they're going to call it, instead of IPO, initial public offering, it's initial coin offering. And then it kind of got out of control, where you would hear like 100 million raised in X amount of days, and I'm like, who the hell is putting money into this shit? And then it some people made a lot of money on it. I've never invested in any ICOs. Yeah, but
But do you think it'll cause harm?
it could. I mean, at least maybe public image wise. What if we have the IPO, or sorry, ICO bubble, like the .com bubble, where all these ICOs just start going off and real money starts going into it? Like, what if JP Morgan invests a bunch of more money into an ICO because there's some buzzwords in it, and then it goes to hell, and there's like this regulation that's passed against all cryptocurrency or something like that? I mean, there's all sorts of things that could happen, like theoretically wise, but I don't think it actually will happen. But yeah, I don't like the ICOs. I don't think they're necessarily good.
Okay, and the recent SEC letter that came out. Have you had a chance to read it?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on it? I mean, do you think the DAO, was it a security? And what do you think about all these other ones, all these other ICOs? Are they also a security in some way?
Yeah, I mean, how transparent the SEC makes public companies be. I mean, when someone wants, like within the company, wants to sell a share, or even like a large venture capitalist, they need to do certain like S13 filings with the SEC, and that's just people buying in. And then the way that the ICOs are just, they're not transparent. Just, oh, we raised this much money. Oh, from who? Oh, maybe we'll plug a name here to like get some more investments. But the way the letter was written was a warning. They said in there that they're not going to press charges now, or like for what has happened. But it seemed like, but if you keep up this stuff, we're going to come down on you guys. So I would be very careful if I was in the ICO space. And I'm surprised they're still being listed on altcoin exchanges.
Yeah, I'm still a little surprised myself, but recently Bitfinex kind of shut off U.S. customers. Do you think that's the first sign that other exchanges are going to start implementing the same kind of policy? Like, maybe they won't delist, but they'll not offer their services to U.S. customers. But what does that do with the U.S. exchanges?
Yeah, I mean, they have to comply, or they're gonna get fined. Like you said, just like how Bitfinex did, they got fined by the CFTC like a year ago because they were basically loaning fiat. You could go on, load up your fiat, whether it's from Bitcoin or not, and then loan it out to other people, and they weren't licensed for it, and they got dinged. And what's funny, and right after they got fined, then they got hacked. It was just like boom, boom, double blow. So yeah, I think the U.S. ones need to watch out. But worldwide, I mean, and VPNs and stuff, I mean, you can even be a U.S. customer and trade on Bitfinex if you exclusively use their API. So if you're a developer. But you would have to register as a non-U.S.
Okay, that's interesting, because I ask you because you're a developer and your background is also finance, so I figure you may have a better understanding. Do you deal in stocks at all, or have you done something like that, or is it you're just into banking?
No, yeah. When I found Bitcoin, I was looking for something new to invest in. So I've done equity trading, forex trading before, and then when I've actually discovered what Bitcoin was, just with my background of doing computer stuff and finance, I was just like, holy shit, like this is real. And then I just started buying like every week, and just bought until it hurt, and just kept buying and buying and buying. And then I haven't really bought since we broke the all-time high of 1,200, because it's just getting up there. And then I was like, well, I'll just wait it out. Once things die out and everyone says Bitcoin's dead again, then I'll like start up my weekly buys again.
Okay. So you've been buying since the peak of like 1,200 back in 2013.
Yep,
Okay.
I bought the top, and then I bought the bottom at I think 210 was the cheapest I got in 2015.
Was that form of average cost, dollar cost averaging? Would you say that's like a really smart move to do?
Yeah, my average. I don't care if people know this. My average buy-in is around $500 a coin by
Okay.
dollar cost averaging. Whereas if I did a lump sum in December 2013, I would have had a average of 1200.
Okay. Okay. So cost averaging does work, especially if you're just trying to just don't care about the price, just buy a certain amount. And the nice thing about it is the lower the price goes,
The more
the
you get.
more you get. Yes, yes,
Yeah.
and it'll drag that average down, and that's why you got five. Even though the price was what 1,200 to 200, the middle of that is in 500, but your average cost was below the middle of that average price. It was 500, so
Yep.
it works out really well. I think a lot of people overlook that,
Well, I mean,
and they don't.
like right now the price is going up. So if you wait and cost average right now, and if you have short investment, then you're going to end up paying more. But if you start averaging now, and you're going to hold it for 2 or 3 years, then you'll get a bigger deal. But that's why people are just dumping their money in now, because they think it's going to go to the moon, which probably is.
All right. All right, fair enough, fair enough. And when did you, what price did you stop buying it at? When it went back to all-time highs?
Yeah, once we crossed the all-time high, the previous
Okay,
2013 all-time high, I stopped right then, because then it was
all right.
confirmed that the cycle was going to repeat. And then I even posted it on my Twitter. I'm like, it's okay, we're going to new all-time highs again. We're starting a new bubble. So
Yeah, I've noticed that in the past. Like if you look at or Brian, did you have anything to say or okay? I noticed back in the when you look at the history of Bitcoin, it just seems to have a repeating cycle where it booms, right? Makes an all-time high, and then it doesn't make another low. It doesn't make an all-time low, but it comes off of that all-time high, stabilizes, and then after a certain amount of period, it booms again. It makes another all-time high, but it doesn't make it makes a higher low, I should say. So higher
yep.
high, higher low, and it just repeats that process. It almost seems like it's a no-brainer, you know. And what
Yeah,
I'm
I
trying to
mean,
get at is what knowing the cycles of this, my rational mind would say, okay, just buy Bitcoin because it seems to be fairly predictable. It's deflationary. It's going to go through these cycles. Why would anybody? Why do you think other people go into altcoins? And what's their rationale? I mean, what do you think? Because it only makes sense for me to buy Bitcoin because I see the cycles and we're going up in a bull run here where we're going to break all-time highs. Why would anybody like ignore that and just go into another altcoin? What are your thoughts?
I would use my own personal experiences. When I got in, I thought Bitcoin already bubbled in 2013. I'm like, Bitcoin's already went up, so I need to get something else. I missed the boat. So other people are probably doing that. And I mean, things are predictable. Like with Bitcoin, like you're saying, there's a cycle. So you just watch it and you buy it in the bear market, and yeah, that works well. If you post that during the bear market, people are going to tell you you're stupid for buying now. And if you say that now, it's easy to look in hindsight. Yeah, look at this cycle. And IPOs, like in the traditional stock market, tend to have an own pattern. And within the first 12, 16 months, if they don't take off right away, they go down, and then they usually recover towards their initial entry price and then dump. And that's one of the trades I do a lot, is I usually just scout out 16-month-old IPOs.
Okay. And what do you think makes Bitcoin different financially? Why is Bitcoin such a big deal? Like, why are people drawn to it? I mean, I know the price is high. That's probably like the main reason. But other than the price spiking of it at all-time highs, like what's drawing what's drawing you into it now? Like, you've been involved in it for 4 years now.
Yeah.
So what's keeping you in the space?
Well, it empowers the individual, and you'll notice in other technologies that tend to flourish, whether it was, say, MySpace that empowered the individual to post pictures of themselves or post their band. People weren't on there because their layout was cool and they had a cool name. They had a terrible layout and their name sucked. And then you had Facebook, which again empowered the individuals. You've got apps like Snapchat, and you have things where you post. People that empowers the individuals are the ones that go. It's like the internet. That's why we all love the internet, because we can create our own content just like we are in this show, and making it very narrowed down into what we want. So Bitcoin is like that, but for finance, because I can start and launch a store in an hour. I can register the domain name, and I can create a shopping cart using Bitcoin, and then I'm good to go. I don't have to look for permission. I don't need a third payment party processor. I don't have to pay them fees. And a lot of them, they have credit checks too. So if you have bad credit, now you can't participate in the economy. So Bitcoin just opens it up to the individual, to the people, and those are the things that can spread like wildfire, because the people need to be involved to get it to spread like wildfire.
That's a really good answer. That's what I've been trying to tell people myself, that it empowers you to make your own choices, and it's money. Now you get to choose. You don't need a third party. What do you think about like credit card? Not credit card. Well, then I'll get into credit cards later. But what do you think about Coinbase and BitPay, these merchant processors? Do you really think they're vital to the ecosystem? I think we put a lot of emphasis on those companies, especially with Coinbase getting like whatever the $1 billion, now they're a unicorn. But if you look at what they really are, they're just a trading, I guess trading or buying and selling of Bitcoin and now other altcoins. But merchant processing, if you really think about how Bitcoin empowers you, you really don't need Coinbase other than to procure your Bitcoins. That's about it. How do you feel about these BitPays and these Coinbase type of companies? Are they really that important to the ecosystem?
Yes, and I'll tell you why I think they are. Other than, I mean, yeah, we use it to buy coins, but do you really need them? Because you can just transact on the network yourself. The way I got my first Bitcoin was Coinbase. The way most people get their first Bitcoin is Coinbase, and they need to appeal to the masses just for it to eventually work out. So BitPay also has a debit card that you can get. I have one, and it's kind of cool. You can just throw Bitcoins on it and then use it anywhere because it's a Visa card. But being like a payment processor, I think that's the wrong field to be in. I think it's good Coinbase started GDAX, a trading platform, because that's something you can't really do on your own. Have that liquidity. So if any of them ever go IPO, BitPay or Coinbase, I'm an immediate buyer.
Okay, of the actual company itself.
Yep.
Okay. What are the chances of that? What do you think? I mean, is it pretty high now? They got their, especially Coinbase, being worth $1 million, or
yeah,
1 billion, I should say.
Yeah, I think not every startup, most startups, especially when you have ones by entrepreneurs. Brian Armstrong's background isn't in that. He made like Bitcoin Wallet or Bitcoin Android or something like that. He started like some basic wallet and then it turned into Coinbase. But basically all these, they're looking for an exit plan. The investors that have invested want their money back. And they either get that in usually two ways. Go IPO, go public, and then sell your shares, or an acquisition, like what Shapeshift and who did Shapeshift get today?
KeepKey?
Yeah, KeepKey. So I wouldn't be surprised if I don't know if they planned it that way, but that's how the KeepKey investors got their money back, was by that Shapeshift purchase.
Okay. So if you had a choice, IPO, Coinbase IPO, or more Bitcoin, what would be the better investment?
Is it a bull market or a bear market when I'm buying Bitcoin?
Okay. Well, I'll give us a case for both.
Well, I mean, if it's like right now, if both were to happen, I would put money in Coinbase and BitPay. I haven't sold my Bitcoins. I'm holding those long term. But if it happens in a Bitcoin bear market where we're going sideways or down forever and everything's boring, then I'm going to be buying Bitcoin.
Okay, good answer. Brian, do you have any comments or questions?
Yeah,
I
if
think
I
he's muted.
unmute my mic, I can have a question. Um, if Coinbase does the IPO and they go out, the guys are looking for the investors are looking for their way out, as you said. So the price is going to drop after it launches, right?
Yep.
But you see Coinbase as a long-term investment as a stock because they're going to be huge, right?
Yeah, and they have someone has to supplement the network to get all the noobs and mass people in, and that's going to be a place like Coinbase.
So it'll easily surpass the initial drop from the investors dumping their stocks.
Let's say over time. Yeah, so
Okay.
initially I would expect a dump because, like you said, the investors and anyone that might have gotten stock options that were hired lead developers, they're probably going to want to dump right away because they're going to land on a ton of money. But then after that, it usually recovers, which is why that's my typical trade that I do on IPOs. But for Coinbase, I just throw it in then because I could see that one just FOMOing like Bitcoin would.
Okay, excellent. Let me see. I don't know if we have any questions. I don't think we have any questions. I don't think you'll take your shirt off, will you?
Not
Sometimes
usually.
I ask our guests to take their shirt off.
No, you'd have to catch me at the beach, and I do that because it'd be weird if I went
Oh.
in the water with my shirt on.
Anyways, I think we're gonna wrap this show up really soon. I do have a few more questions before we do that. So if any of the audience members does have a question for Kyle, they should type it in right now.
Well, you know, I should have
I'm,
tweeted out that I was on this show. So, how many viewers
okay.
are there?
Let me see. We had up to 12. Right now we're almost at 9 here. On my smartphone we had like 22. So I'm not sure which one's right. Um, the other question, I want to get back to the core developers. How important are they to Bitcoin?
Just in general, like how important are they to
Yeah, I
the
mean, are
protocol?
they replaceable? Like because this whole thing with the hard fork that happened recently was an attempt to replace the core developers in some ways.
Yeah, if I don't know what's actually going on between this. Some people are acting very irrational, and when people act very irrational for no gain, then I begin to question, well, like why. And yeah, so if Jihan, Bitmain, and everyone wanted to take over Bitcoin, get rid of the developers so that nobody can develop it, and then kill it, I mean, that's so weird. It would be like starting up some factory, like say Tesla and Elon Musk, and then he fires all the engineers. It makes no sense.
Yeah, what do you think is really going on? Is this a power play at the end of the day?
Yeah, it could be. I mean, what's going on with CSW? You know, not Charles, right? Whatever his name is, fake Satoshi. Um,
Craig, right?
yeah, like what's going on with him? Why is he obvious? He's trying to claim he's Satoshi when he proved that he's not. And then you've got Gavin backing him up for no reason. The only time Gavin even opens his mouth anymore when it's something for BTC1 or to try to find, like maybe Core had a hiccup for something, then he'll post on Twitter, oh, look, Core made a mistake. And before, he never acted like that. He didn't act like some douchebag. So it's really weird.
Okay, interesting. We do have one question from the audience. They want to know, are you actively developing anything for Bitcoin?
Right now, I'm mostly focused on Tangerine.pw, which is a Bitcoin API service. And then other than that, just one-offs when people ask me to, build something for them, like if they want a widget or if they want a trading bot, stuff like that, when I can squeeze them in. But yeah, nothing new right now.
All right, and this is a personal question from me. I'm just kind of curious. What are you gonna do with all your Bitcoins? Like, what are your plans? What's your exit plan?
I don't know. I mean, I don't want to be the stereotypical, when it's time to sell, you won't have to, but I think that's really the way it might be, is when it's time to sell, is everyone will be accepting Bitcoin, and you can just, move a little bit out of cold storage, put it in a hot wallet, and then you'll be set for 4 years. And then, it could be worth an astronomical amount of money, and just don't sell.
No, Brian, did you have any questions or comments?
Well, no. I like what he's talked to us about tonight. Kyle, you have a good outlook on things. You've reassured our audience that the foundation of Bitcoin is safe. I appreciate that. Reassured me too, because I have my doubts. There are things in it that sometimes I wonder, like, if the whole thing could come crumbling down. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime. Yeah, thanks for having me on. It's been a pleasure, and it's always good to hear, what people are thinking about in the industry, and just content creators like yourselves, and this is what really drives the community. If people didn't create content because they were scared, then there wouldn't be stuff to talk about. So.
Right. Oh, another thing. I'm glad you brought up like cold storage. When you were back in 2013, there was no quote unquote hard wallets or hardware wallets, not that I know of. It was mostly, you're on your phone or on your desktop. You had a wallet client on your laptop or desktop, whatever. And then there was your paper wallet. What are you using for cold storage?
I don't know if I want to share that, in case I'm ever,
Well, let me ask: is it a hardware wallet?
Here's how it is stored. It is stored at a third-party location under time lock. So if you ever kidnap me, I cannot get it or release it.
Okay. Is it so hardware wallet? I was just wondering if you got into the hardware wallet craze. That's what I was wondering.
No, the only hardware wallet I got was Crypto Steel, because I thought the thing looked freaking badass, and it is. I don't use it though, but it's really cool.
Okay. What do you think about these hardware wallets?
I think I haven't used them, so I'm going to have to be, I guess, semi-biased against hardware wallets. But I can see them, every sort of memory I've ever used, since I've been in computers when I was a little kid, things have failed. Disks fail, hard drives fail, something happens, a piece fell off, cat peed on it, who knows? So I don't like giving all this power and money just to something that could be destroyed. So people use the Trezors, and then they'll have to back it up, and that backup is eventually on a piece of paper. And that's your fail-safe in case something happens to your Trezor. So why not just use paper? I mean, the Trezor makes it easy, but I like paper wallets.
Well, because I want you to
have to know what.
I want you to use my referral code so I could get 15%.
At Trezor?
or whatever hardware wallets, that's and I need to make a market for it, or else nobody would want it, right? I mean, geez.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're good for for ease, making things easy, but I just see that there's potential for failure there, and if you don't know what you're doing and that fails, then I mean, do you know how to recover your 12-word seed without a piece of software? Like, can you do it yourself? Most people can't. I can't. So make sure whichever way you do it, you can restore it 20 years down the line, assuming that service is gone. So find a script, something that can convert, whatever you need to do, or just use a paper wallet. Learn how to use your private keys. Because when I first got in, I was reading about Bitcoin, my first question, like literally the first day, as I'm reading the first hour, where do I put my private key? Like where do I put it? I know I need it to spend, but like, do I paste it on a website? So that stuff's important to know.
Okay. Thank you, Brian. Do you have any last words before we let Kyle go? Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, I don't have a paper wallet yet. I really don't have much in the way of Bitcoin to like, need to store it away other than just like on my phone. But that seems to me like the way to go. And I agree with Kyle. I've been in computers for a long time myself, and devices fail. Anything that has electric current running through it's gonna fail at some point, right? And you could lose all of your Bitcoin, right? Because like Kyle said, maybe you don't know how to retrieve it via that device. Maybe you don't know how to use the master key seed without having the device or the software again. So at the end of the day, keep it simple, stupid.
All right, thank you, Brian, for that comment. And yeah, I agree. And plus, the wallet generators you can download off of GitHub. They're free, and so you don't have to pay $100 or $200 for a piece of hardware, which is, in my opinion, a wallet generator on a USB stick with a little fancy interface to it. But anyways, Kyle, before we end this episode here, please tell people where they can find you, and again, tell them about the book that you wrote as well.
Yeah, well, yeah, thanks again for having me on. It's been great to talk to you, James. Even though I can't see your face, you're hiding behind the scope. And good to talk to Brian. And yeah, my book is Building Bitcoin Websites. If you just Google it, you'll find it. And it's on Amazon for $16. If you go to one of my websites, BTC Threads, like pants you would wear, or like threads, like chatconversation.com/book, you can pay Bitcoin, because I'll definitely take your Bitcoin for it, and you can get it for $7 instead, because it's going to be worth more money later. I don't want your dirty fiat. That's why you got to pay 17 for when you pay me in fiat. But you can find me on YouTube. My YouTube channel is kind of hard. It's Mixolydian with ones for eyes, and that's a mode in scales for music theory. If anyone was ever wondering, that's what Mixolydian is. And I do a bunch of tutorials, web development stuff there. Or you can find me on Twitter at Coinables, because I figured that would be easier than Mixolydian. At Coinables on Twitter and on GitHub.
Excellent. All that information is in the notes section of this video, so you can click on any one of those if you want to get in contact with Kyle. If you like a personal autograph, go buy the book. He will sign it. Give him, if you buy it with Bitcoin, he sign it twice. He'll really love you if you pay Bitcoin.
Yep, absolutely. I want your Bitcoins. All of your Bitcoins belong to me.
All right. So this concludes this episode. So thank you audience for being here. Appreciate you. Thank you for people in the chat. Until next time, stay tuned, everyone. Okay, bye-bye.
All right, thanks. Bye.